everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here so I can show you Spellbinders June Surprise Bundle for 2018. I have to be honest, I never knew they had this, and oh boy, have I been missing out. So hopefully by showing you, you will not. From what I'm hearing, all of these products put together are a nice cost. Hi there. But you only pay like a third of it. So I believe they're like $40. So all links, of course, will be down below, but let's dive right in. So you first get these two pendants. One's like a gold, another one's like a heavy metal or a gunmetal. And you could put like sea beads, glue them on the inside there, or sequins, or anything like that. They're really cool. Cool mixed media pendant. You also get these media mixage. I think that's how you say it. And some of these are thin. They can be bent. They can be run through an embossing folder. The others you can stamp in. So if you're into jewelry, you can do this. But these can also be put on cards. You have this die here, and it's called the filigree vase. You can either cut the filigree or make it solid. You have the stylized flowers. So you've got all of these different shapes that you can ink up, have fun with. This here is called the Renaissance Tags 2. So they make some really pretty tags for sentiments. Those flowers you can cut apart and put around your card. This is called the Wagon Wheel. This is a great background, and it's thin lined. So it's awesome. This I absolutely love. It's called the Card Creator. Make a card. Right there, you can make a card with that. So it's pretty cool. This here is called Stack and Fan Flowers. What's really cool, these shapes, those half circles, you fold them to create your flower. So that is pretty different. Never saw those before. These are great because they stack against each other. And as always with Spellbinders dies, they can also emboss as you're cutting, or you can run them through. They also have embossing folders. This is called Horsehair. I don't know about that name, but Horsehair. And let me tell you what, their embossing folders are big. They're a lot bigger. They're 5x7, so that's pretty cool. And then you also get these absolutely adorable stamp sets. So you get the happy birthday with the balloons, and then you get the We Make a Good Pair, but a great die set. And what's great with their packaging, they always give you something to help give you some inspiration on how you can use their products. Whether it's on the front, but you can also look on the back. So these are all of the products for the June Surprise Bundle. I was very honored. This was kind of cool. Who knew? But now don't think you're going to go away yet, because of course we're going to make some cards. Absolutely. So let's see the projects that we come up with. So for the first project, I'm going to use the embossing folder, and I'm going to use the Wagon Wheel die. I just had to. So their embossing folders are pretty thick, which is something that I like. And again, they're 5x7. Now, they're not quite as thick as the new 3D textures that are out, but they're pretty close. So this was a piece of thin cardstock that I had. So I did mist it just a little bit, so that I wouldn't get any cracks or holes. And it worked perfectly. Now I'm just going to put some double-sided tape on the other side of this, because this is going to go straight down on my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding card base. I grabbed a piece of gold metallic paper from my stash, and and let me tell you what, they're dies, again, these are the dies that I bought when I first started. Yeah, won't say how long ago. And they cut through paper like butter. They really do. They're nice and thick. They're sturdy. And you don't have to go back and forth with a bunch of passes because of all the detail you have. What I was showing you there is their tool. It's an awesome tool. It's got a craft pick. It's got a little tiny spatula thing there. It's hidden away. It's got a roller. But these pieces, they just fall out of the die. And again, perfectly. You saw how quickly I was able just to pop them out, or I could have just flicked it with my fingers and it would have just all come out. I'm going to put some glue on the other side. You can just see the detail in this die. And I'm going to set that on top of my dry embossed cardstock. And I am going to set a acrylic block on top of that because it is very intricate and there is a lot of texture in that piece of cardstock. I'm just using a general sentiment from my stash. I always keep them close by, just saying hello, and I'm going to use my scissors just to cut around this. I always hold my breath, but these scissors are nice and long, and I can get a straight cut in one cut. It's always touch and go. Usually it's crooked, but we're going to go with it. I'm going to trim off the sides, and then I'm going to check to make sure that this is dry on there, and I'm going to trim the edges of my die. I am so sorry. Now that that's trimmed, I'm going to adhere this panel down onto my card base. Amazingly, I'm not going to prop it up with any fun foam or double-sided foam tape. And then I am going to put some foam, double-sided foam, on the other side of my sentiment. I have to have something that's propped up. But I think with all of the texture that the embossing folder gave, I think it's just enough. But something very simple, using 2 different colored cardstocks. It would be awesome to have a watercolor panel and do a watercolor background. You could do one of those galaxy backgrounds. Any type of background, you know, watercolor, powders. So that's our first card. So for our second card, I wanted to use those Renaissance tags. So I'm only using 2 of them, but what's really nice with these tags, from the 2 main ones, you also get the cutout, whether it's the rectangle or the oval, if I use the other one. So I wanted to use the one with the rectangle. Again, just grabbing a sentiment from my stash. I'm using my vintage photo ink to go around the edges. If you've seen my videos before, you know, yes, I own stock in vintage photo. I just love the accent that it gives. But the details in these dies, they are very intricate, so I must go gently. I'm usually very rough with my vintage photo there, but just to give it some shading. The panel that's in the back there, that's again just a piece of cardstock from my scrap pile that I found that I thought would look really sharp. I am going to prop this panel, which is not a full panel for my A2 card. I just want that to be off to the side, but I did use a piece of fun foam to prop that up. My card base and the die cuts that I cut are in ivory, and again, they were just from my scrap pile as well. So I'm just going to make sure that there's some double-sided foam tape behind some of the areas at the top and along the side. And now I'm just determining, okay, do I want this piece on the bottom, which it would look fine, or do I want it on the top, which again, that looks fine as well. So again, they're very versatile. You can do a lot of different scenes with them, so to speak. So I'm just going to set that down. And then once that's set, I will adhere my other 2 pieces with my liquid adhesive. And I'm just going to make sure that when I apply my liquid adhesive to something this intricate, I always make sure the outlier sections are covered with my adhesive. Because sometimes, you know, when it's that intricate, you can't get everything. But just as long as you have the main points, you'll be fine and it won't lift. And then the same thing with my sentiment. So a very elegant looking card, but again, not a lot of equipment needed to create that card. Now you all know I had to use the card creator, and again, this is solid. It goes right across. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I chose 3 of my oxide squeezed lemonade, spice marmalade, and also picked raspberry. I took the outer frame and I cut that panel first. I did my blending, I did a little bit of water splashes, but I wanted to make sure that that was the same size as this panel is going to be. So I'm making sure that these are set onto, this is a piece of white cardstock from my stash, and you can just see how intricate this die cuts. I'm just popping out the last pieces. I'm using my tool from Spellbinders. And you can see that this here, now you could also use 2 pieces of cardstock. Now you want to be careful because you can see how those bottom and top flaps are bendy. So don't be violent like me. But there's also embossed areas on this panel. But again, you could just use 2 pieces of cardstock and you could do a die inlay with this. Or you could use 3 different colors of cardstock and use the different colors for the areas. I just grabbed one of my brushes and I'm just going over this piece with my vintage photo. And what you're going to see is the embossed areas are now highlighted so you can actually see them. And where the embossed area really is the my and the sun and the little heart there. And then you've got these little dots going around it. So that when you place this right on top of that panel, the blending that you did on your other panel will have no problem showing through. Now, this would have also looked good if you used a black cardstock. That would have really made the background pop. But I just wanted to stick with a white and then highlight it with the vintage photo. So I'm going to line these 2 up, and I felt the need to throw that across the room. Now we're going to place that on the panel. You could also make a shaker card out of this. You would just need some really thin pieces of double-sided foam tape up the side, which it is absolutely out there. So you can also do that too. Put lots of sequins in there, seed beads, anything you can think of. I'm going to use some double-sided foam tape on the back of this panel and set that down on my A2 size top folding card base. And you can see it just covers the entire front. So you can have all the color on your panel and just use a plain white base if you wanted to as well. Very simple. You have a card in about 10 minutes. For this next one, I'm using these stack and fan flowers. So what I did a lot of prep for this. So I sprayed some watercolor paper and I have the Nuvo mica sprays and I used the green, the brown, and the pink. And I just let those dry. I didn't want a solid coverage. I just wanted it to be all over. So you can see the green are going to be for the leaves and I'm going to die cut those out. I already die cut the fans to create the image that I'm going to create. Now, the detail in these leaves is absolutely beautiful. So they remind me of wings. So I'm thinking, something else with those. Now, when it comes to these half circles, you can see that they have holes on each side. And what I did, I cut 3 sets of the ones with the scallops. I'm using my bone folder just to help the curve to start getting formed. I grabbed a brad from my stash, and now I'm just going to place these on the brad. Now, you want to make sure of a couple things. The brad stem is long enough that it'll hold all of this cardstock. Probably if I used a thinner cardstock, I could have gotten even more on, which, of course, I use a heavy white cardstock because it's watercolor paper. But you can also take a bead, and if you have some wire, you can put that bead on the wire, twist it, and then poke that through, and then you'll have a longer piece of wire to build. So they're just your options. I was able to get all 9 pieces on this brad. So the brads will hold a lot. Now I'm really pushing down there to make sure. And then once I know they're on, I just want to get that brad opened up so that it can hold all of this. And I use my bone folder to help with that. And I felt the need to throw that too. I've been throwing a lot of things lately. It's kind of funny. So now I'm just playing with the shape. Now I knew I wasn't going to get a complete circle. It wasn't what I was going for. So I wanted to show that you can get different shapes from these. So I have a triangle here, a triangle fan. That will change a little bit because you can see I'm thinking. So I'm going to push everything up towards the top. And what I'm actually going to end up creating, you can see that they turn very easily. I'm actually going to create, it's almost going to be like a half of a flower, somewhat. And that's what I was looking for. So it's different. But these are really easy to create with. They're very easy to work with. I'm just making it look difficult. But you can see all of the neat, think of the, I'm thinking of one of those fans. I don't know if when you were a kid, the fans on the stick, the pinwheels. That's it, pinwheels. For like a birthday card using solid colors, I think that would be really sharp. So many ideas when it comes to this. So once I cut down a piece of black cardstock, 2x4, and I'm going to set that up in the corner. And you can see the glue dots, it doesn't go anywhere. I think I was testing to see if I could throw that again. I'm then going to set my leaves in place. And again, these two, they remind me of wings. So I'm seeing something else come to mind as well. So I'll be having fun with all of these products for a while. I'm going to glue this last one in, or this secondary leaf up top, because really as I'm putting my leaves in, the glue dots are catching it. So I don't have to add any more glue or anything like that. I've already have my stamp, my sentiment ready, and I'm thinking, okay, should I prop this up? Because you always know I'm thinking when the fingers are tapping. So I do decide to prop this up with some foam squares that I'm going to cut down, but it's also going to go off of the edge. So I want to make sure that I don't pull off that last one, but I do. But that's okay. We just real quick put the sheet back on it so that it's no longer sticky. And here I come. So I'm going to set this in place. I'm going to make sure that it's set on my grid so that I can get this as straight as possible. And even though it's going off the edge, I also want it to go over the focal point that's there as well. I grabbed from my stash, I'm sitting here and I'm measuring this piece because I'm not sure if I can get it, can I use it on a top folding or do I have to use a side folding? But in my stash, I have a lot of the Spellbinder frame dies, and I just had to grab this one. This one's called Deckled. It's up there in my favorites. So I just real quick grabbed that, and I use my vintage photo because I have brown in the pink and the green. So that's going to kind of pull out those brown tints that I have in there. I'm going to set this panel, I'm going to straddle it right across it, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it onto my card base. So I am going to make this a side folding card base, and that's because of the focal point that just extends off of the black panel. But I am going to glue this directly down onto my card base. I've got a lot of dimension when it comes to the flower and the leaves that are on the left-hand side, and I will remember to pull off the backing of my foam tape. And that is our fourth project. For our final project, I just wanted to play with some pattern paper. We all have tons of it, I'm sure. So I actually grabbed some, and I was very fortunate. Someone had sent me some pattern paper because they know that I love it. And I'm actually using some of that. I couldn't resist when I saw it as I was digging through. So I've already pre-cut the die pieces, and you can see that these dies, they layer. It's what I call a layering die. So each die will go up on itself. So you have the different shapes. So that was the sentiment shape. And you don't have to layer. You could have just stamped on the main one where I have the yellow. I'm taking the larger of the flowers and I'm going to set that down first. And what's great is with the die, as you cut it, it's embossing. So there's actually fine pinholes that are going in each of those curves. I'm going to take the next layer and I'm going to prop that up using some foam squares. This die is just as beautiful on its own, but when you layer it on top of this flower, it perfectly nests on top. So you can see that pattern paper coming through. Same with this piece as well. It is actually designed to set right into a certain area on that second layer that I put. And then the final small little layer, which is also embossed with a design, that's going to go directly in the center and be propped up with some foam squares. I'm going to trim off the edge. I always like to have my objects going off the side. And now I'm going to set my sentiment in place. And I'm just going to nestle that up into that layered flower or blossom. That's what it's called. And we're just going to set that in place. So these are just some of the projects that you can make from all of these products that you receive in the Spellbinders June Surprise Bundle. Now, keep in mind, once these are sold out, they are sold out. So it is a first come, first serve. Now, and from what I'm understanding when I read about the buzz, this is something that people really wait for. So if you're interested, just make sure you click on the links below to make sure that you get yours. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. Love to have you to be part of my group here. If you have any questions or comments, just leave those down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I do try to answer each and every comment. It's pretty quick, but you know, life gets in there. As I said, the link to this bundle will be linked down or will be shown down below in the video description. So make sure you check that out. And while you're there, check out some other projects as well. I hope everyone's having a great week or a great day, however you want to look at it. But always remember, be creative.